Welcome to Rise to Liberty podcast. Thank you for joining us again. And today we are joined by a very special guest. Some would say a very controversial guest. So, at which point I will say that any information shared in this interview is not medical advice. This is a free speech platform, first and foremost. By having my guest on, this is not me saying I agree, I don't disagree. It's hearing the position in which the guest holds with an open mind, which everyone should always be skeptical. Make sure and question, do your own research. One thing I can't absolutely stand is an appeal to authority. That is a massive logical fallacy, and our current medical system is one massive medical or appeal to authority. They don't always have all the answers. They're humans just like the rest of us. So with that being said, the last thing I actually will say is that due to the subject matter, this entire interview will not be able to be held on YouTube. So at some point we will cut off and go to the other platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter, these places. So with that said, Christopher, how are you doing, my friend?
Brother, you know I'm always fabulous. And please, guys, do not believe anything I tell you today. I tell people, thank God I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I don't practice anything. And guys, why do we put so much faith in these men and women that openly tell you they're practicing medicine? Would you ever go see a freaking plumber that was practicing how to fix your toilet, or a mechanic that was practicing how to fix your engine? You wouldn't do it. So please, I'm not a medical doctor. I would never practice medicine without a license. Don't believe anything I tell you today, but do what the Lord commands each and every one of you to do, and that is test and prove all things, not some things, but all things. And I promise you, if you do this, our Lord and Savior will show you the truth. And guys, the truth shall make you free. Please understand, I believe, and it's my personal opinion, we're being poisoned with the letter V, and a lot of you guys know what that V stands for. They're poisoning the water, the air, the food, the supplements, the frequencies. They're poisoning everything. Why? Because they don't love you. They don't want to keep you safe. They want you dead. And if you don't believe me, it used to be in writing in Georgia at the Georgia Guidestones before it fell down, where they only want 500 million of you left on this planet. And brother, do you know who one of the last people to ever see the Georgia Guidestones erect was?
I'm actually curious who.
You're looking at him.
Interesting.
Yeah, brother. I was in Georgia right after 4th of July, and I was headed home, and I just, something said, look, you're in Atlanta, Georgia, go to the Georgia Guidestones. And I got in my V-Mobile, and I drove to the Georgia Guidestones, and it was so beautiful. And it just came a huge rainstorm, and it had stopped. It was right at sunset, and there was this beautiful rainbow right over my car in the Georgia Guidestones. And I got out and did some very good video work and whatnot. The sun set, and I left. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, my phone started blowing up from Stu Peters and Mike Adams, Jonathan Otto, all very good friends of mine, and said, Christopher, what did you do? I was like, what did I do? What do you mean, what did I do? I said, the Georgia Guidestones just fell. And I'm like, brother, you guys know me. I'm all about the First Amendment right of free speech. I hate those Georgia Guidestones and all those satanic and Luciferian Masonic symbols, but I would never damage them because they have every right to have those satanic symbolisms up. But I am glad that they did go down. But again, the feds, please understand that Christopher Key had nothing to do with that in any form of the fashion. I'm all about love. I'm never about, damaging anything. So just let's get that on the record. For your listeners out there, a lot of you may not know me. I'm the least of these. Plain and simple. Christ is in me. He's in my name. My name is Christopher, and they can't stand that. My last name is Key, just like a door key. God's given us all the keys to open up the doors that Satan never wanted unlocked. And guys, you have to understand, we have to do this right here, right now for God's people, but more importantly, for God's children. And we have to quit being divided. We've got to come together and quit caring about you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're black, you're white. We're all God's children. This is all about divide and conquer. And right now, they're winning. And we've got to quit being divided. Why would anybody want to listen to me? Well, I've been part of 4 national championships, 3 Super Bowls. I've been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I've been on 60 Minutes. 9 years ago, the fabulous government fined me hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, seized everything I own, shut me down. I've got a court order for life that I can no longer have anything to do with health, wellness, and pain management in my great state of Alabama. And that's why, brother, I'm now here in Boynton Beach, Florida, an hour north of Miami, and we're doing some of the most amazing things that's ever been done, where, again, we don't treat, prevent, or cure anything. We have fellowship and frequencies, and we teach you how to be your own doctor, because Rockefeller medicine, it's all about drugs, chemicals, and surgery, and they want you to stay in the system, because once you're in the system, you depend on the system, and you will never leave the system, and you'll be a customer for life. People have to wake up and understand what is happening. My greatest accomplishment in life, brother, happened July 30th, will be 25 years ago. And that was when my life changed forever. I used to own a bunch of health clubs. I brought to market a device called the Bod Pod that's now the gold standard.
Yeah, would you like to let my listeners know kind of like what your background is, what you used to do?
Yes, sir. My background is in exercise physiology, kinesiology, and I was saying I used to own a bunch of health clubs. I brought to market a device called the Bod Pod that's now the gold standard around the world for measuring body fat. And I was heavily involved with health and wellness, and everything changed 25 years ago when I accomplished the greatest thing in life, and that was when I became a father. And when I became a father, everything changed. And my twins, I became a father of twins. My twins were born with one of the most rare diseases on the planet called phenylketonuria, where my twins will never, ever eat protein. No milk, no chicken, no cheese, no fish, no birthday cake, no ice cream. Nothing that has protein will my twins ever eat. If they do, it becomes toxic, goes straight to the brain, and causes the most extreme mental retardation there is. Anybody that's ever had a child, the first thing they do when your child is born, they prick their foot to, number one, gather their DNA, but number two, actually something good come of it is to see whether or not they have PKU, because as long as it's caught early enough, they'll live perfectly normal lives, but if it goes undetected, it causes the most extreme mental retardation there is. So when my twins were born with this rare disease 25 years ago, my team of doctors at the Sparks Clinic at UAB in Birmingham said, Christopher, you have to test and prove anything that goes into their temple. And guys, I was always a huge researcher, being a power lifter, a bodybuilder, I really understood. I thought the temple, and I love to do research.
Just one sec. So by temple, you mean body? The
body, correct. I always refer to the temple as being the body that God created. And please hear me that I believe God created this temple perfectly. And that's why it's so important to make sure you know what you're putting into this temple. Okay. So when I went to my pediatrician 25 years ago and I told my pediatrician that my twins had this rare disease, he was like, wow, Christopher, I've only read about this in my books. I've never had a child with PKU, much less two. And I said, well, doc, what can you tell me about these V's? These V's are the things that all our children get at birth. And I said,
yeah, we can say that, the vaccine schedule.
Okay, so we can say that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I said, doc, what can you tell me about these vaccines? And he said, well, Christopher, I'm glad you asked that, because your twins are part of this new schedule where they will receive 72 vaccines before they're 18 years of age. And I'm like, wow, doc, I had like 8. I said, doc, I love research. I said, doc, can you show me a study? I need to see a study that this new schedule's safe. And brother, he said, sure, Christopher. There are studies all over the place. They're everywhere, Christopher. I said, okay, can I see one? And he's like, right now? right now? And I'm like, yeah, brother, you're about to inject my precious twins who have this rare disease with PKU with this new schedule of 72 vaccines. I got to see a study, And he was like, well, Christopher, nobody's ever asked me that before. And I'm like, well, brother, you're not touching my twins until I see this new study that this schedule's safe. He said, well, Christopher, I don't have one right now, but I'll have it for you by your next visit. And I said, okay. So we leave that day, and 7 days later we come back, and the nurse has 3 shots out for my son and 3 shots out for my daughter, and they're about to inject them with this new schedule of 72 vaccines. And I'm like, no, ma'am, me and Doc have got to talk. Doc told me that he was going to show me these studies that this new schedule is safe. I got to see those studies. So she goes and gets Doc, and Doc comes in, brother, and he won't look at me. He looks all around the room. He's like, Christopher, there are no studies. But Christopher, they have to be safe. They've been approved by the FDA, the CDC, the AMA. Why are you going to act like that? I almost punched him. And I'm like, why am I going to act like that? I said, brother, you took an oath. You took an oath to do no harm. You're telling me there's no study that this new schedule's safe, and I just watched you inject it into that child right across the way there, and you're wanting to put it in my children? This ain't happening. And we left that day, brother, and that's when everything changed for me. And I got to tell you a quick story, because I was telling this same story nearly 10 months ago in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, one thing I do want to ask, just for clarification of not only myself but my listeners and viewers, but would you consider yourself to be anti-vax? Is that terminology that you would agree with, or do you reject that?
Again, this is a major problem I have with Robert Kennedy Jr. I have with Del Bigtree. I have with Dr. Peter McCullough. They say they're not anti-vaxxers. They just want a safe vaccine. Well, we're going to go into that, and I'm going to promise you, my opinion is there is zero, nada, zilch. There is not one single vaccine that should ever be injected into any precious child, any adult, not even your dogs, your cows, your chickens should ever have these bioweapons. Okay? COVID is a bioweapon, but every single one of them, I believe,
I would agree with that.
Since the research I've done, are all bioweapons. And we'll talk about that, okay? Because I am 100% anti-vax, okay? 100%. There is no safe vaccine. There will never be a safe vaccine. This temple that God created, he created it perfectly. Perfectly. He knew what he was doing. He gave it an immune system. Use it. Build it up. Don't put MRC-5, the aborted fetus from the little baby boy, or WI-38, the aborted fetus from the little baby girl. Don't put those aborted fetuses into your temple. You don't know this, but that's how they grow out these vaccines. That's why we got little boys and little girls right now that don't know who they are. Why? Because they've been injected with boy DNA and little girl DNA, and their body is confused. This is so logically, but people don't think for themselves anymore. That they believe the tele-lie vision. You know why they call it the tele-lie vision, don't you, brother?
I don't.
It lies, and it tells double lies on Sunday with your 501c3 corporation that call themselves churches that all shut down, 99% of them. They all put masks on, and they put pantyhose on because Fauci told you to. They all took the vaccine and they took a booster and they're going to take boosters for the rest of their life. I mean, does that make any logical sense? And we'll come back to that. But going back to what I wanted you guys to, yes, I'm anti-vax, 100% anti-vax. Yes, I am anti-vax, 100%. And proud of it, by God. So what I wanted to tell you is I was telling the same story to a 4-term congressman and a medical doctor in Georgia. And this is going to blow your listeners' minds when I tell you this, because it blew my mind. I'm telling the story I was telling you guys about how you took an oath of office. And this medical doctor said, Christopher, I got to stop you right there, brother. He says, do you know I'm a medical doctor, 4-term congressman, and that the medical doctors have not taken an oath to do no harm since 1972. Did you know that, brother?
I had no idea that they stopped taking the Hippocratic Oath.
1972, they stopped taking it. You know why? Do you know why they stopped taking it in 1972?
What changed that year?
Roe versus Wade, where they could murder our precious children. And from that day forward, they could no longer take the oath to do no harm. What do you think about that?
Well, I have a complicated opinion as far as Roe v. Wade goes. On one hand, obviously it's murder, in my opinion.
Mine too.
I can't see how you would think otherwise, but I do respect. I don't think it's a very cut and dry issue, as a lot of people like to make it out to be. I am not opposed to certain people wanting to thin out their own herd if that's what they choose to do.
Well, I can't handle that. And again, everybody has their own opinion. You know, my God says thou shalt not kill, plain and simple.
It's not conservatives having abortions, so I'm not. I'm not, and then, mind you, I'm not a conservative. I would say I'm an anarcho-capitalist.
Okay.
So I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat.
They're all the same team anyway, brother.
Exactly. It's the legacy party. I used to call them two separate parties. They're not. It's the exact same thing.
Same snake.
Exactly. So I'm all about ultimate freedom, regardless of what that looks like. And unfortunately, there's going to be things that I disagree with.
Oh yeah.
And
all of it. That's what makes this great country fabulous right now, is
Exactly.
we have the right to do that. Like I told you earlier, I couldn't stand the Georgia Guidestones, but I would never tear them down or damage them, you know, because that they have every right to express that opinion, just like I have every right to express my opinion.
Exactly. And that was the whole reason I wanted to have this interview, because I guarantee there's going to be some points where we disagree, but that's
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have a dialogue about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, how are we ever going to get to the truth if we don't talk about it? Regardless of what you think of somebody else's opinions. I mean, there are certain things that I refuse to entertain, like communism. I'm not going to entertain that idea, you know.
Right there with you, brother.
But outside of that, there's very little I won't at least talk about.
Love it. Again, that's all I wanted, is the opportunity to have the debate, because, brother, I love it when I'm wrong. And people say, Christopher, no, you don't. No, I love it when I'm wrong, because when I'm wrong, brother, I've learned something. And knowledge is power. And I want to know everything that you know and your brother and sister knows, because the more I know, the better me and my family can be prepared for what is coming.
Yeah.
You know,
I can agree.
So going back to what we were talking about, the vaccines, was I left that day and everything changed, because I went down that rabbit hole of vaccines. And like I said earlier, I didn't know anything about vaccines. I'd been given 8 of them. I thought they were perfectly safe. I thought they were the best thing since sliced bread. And when I found out about this new schedule, I dove into it. And I don't know how aware your audience is on vaccines, but let me bring you up to date on some things that I'm willing to bet a lot of you did not know. The first one, a lot of you, I hope you do know, that in 1986 is when everything changed, because that was when Ronald Reagan passed the Vaccine Injury Act that exempt all vaccine companies of any and all liability. You knew that, right, brother?
I sure did.
1986. Wouldn't you love to have a company that the government came in and said, brother, we don't care who you murder. We don't care who you damage. We don't care what happens. We're going to exempt you of any and all liability. That would be unbelievable. But then they took it a step further and said, look, we're going to exempt you of all liability, but then we're going to mandate the entire United States population buy your product. Wouldn't you love to have that company?
It sounds like I would not be purchasing anything from this company.
And guys, this is what you have to understand. This is what happened in 1986, and you didn't see it on the television, okay? Because they don't tell you those lies on the television. They program you. That's why it's called TV programming, because they program you to their narrative, what I believe is completely satanic and Luciferian. And I believe this is all about mass eugenics. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but this is what happened in 1986, okay? A lot of your listeners, and I'm hoping you know this, but we'll see. 2010 is when everything changed. This is when Wyatt versus Brusiewicz, the U.S. Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, ruled that all vaccines were unavoidably unsafe. Did you know that, brother?
That case I've actually never heard of.
Look it up. 2010, Wyatt versus Brusiewicz. This was the case that changed everything. Because in 1986, when they exempt all vaccine companies of any and all liability, you could go to vaccine court where the most you can get is $250,000, but you could still go and be tried and win millions and millions of dollars. But in 2010, everything changed where they basically said, look, all vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. And if you, the people, are so misinformed and you still want to take these vaccines, if you're died or damaged, the most you can do is go to vaccine court and get $250,000. Unless, and this is a kicker, and this is what I found out about 5 years ago, was Wyatt versus Brusiewicz said they were unavoidably unsafe and you can no longer sue the vaccine companies unless they committed fraud. Unless they committed fraud. And that's why on my website, vaccine-police.com, I have
in the episode description down below, by the way.
Vaccine-police.com. I have the 11 undeniable facts regarding all vaccines. And one of the things I strongly encourage all your listeners to do is print this out. And you take this to any medical doctor, any pharmacist, anybody that's doing ill will to God's people and God's children. You hand them these 11 undeniable facts. And when they don't disclose that information to their patients from that day forward, they then can be held liable for murder, civilly and criminally. And that's what we've been doing all across the country. I've served all 100 senators, over 100 House of Representatives, Mr. Biden, President Trump. I've served so many of them these 11 undeniable facts, over 5,000 medical doctors, because, guys, this is their kryptonite, because once they're served these documents, they individually can be held liable. Right now, they're all hiding behind the corporate veil. They're all protected. But when you hand deliver this to them and video record it or do it certified or registered, they no longer have plausible deniability. And this is what I need your help with, because, guys, they don't want you to know the power that each and every one of you individually has, where you take the information you've learned today and you share it with one person. One will turn to two, two will turn to four, and before you know it, 8 billion souls around the world will know this satanic, Luciferian mass eugenics that is happening right here and right now. And please understand, this, I hate using fear-mongering, but again, people don't understand what is happening right now. And just to put this in perspective, 1 in 3 of the American men are infertile. 1 in 4 of the females are infertile. In the animal kingdom, brother, when it gets to be 1 and 2, that animal goes extinct. And right now, we're in the midst of the 6th extinction, and there's very few people that are talking out about this. And this is directly, I believe, because of the vaccines, of the water, of the air, the food, the supplements, the frequencies. It's directly because of those things.
I agree with 100%. I personally used to be a vegetable farmer. I would still be doing it today if there was any money in it, but corporate farming has absolutely destroyed it to where being a family farmer, you can't make any money. You can't pay your bills. And one thing I always found interesting is that each year we had to buy seeds.
GMO seeds.
Yep. And because they're not heirloom. So we couldn't harvest the seeds out of any of the produce that we grew to be able to plant our own seeds. And of course that's modified to intentionally do that. Now, my personal opinion is, and this is with a lot of this technology. And I've been going through a lot of this recently because of the passing of Ted Kaczynski. There's this, in my personal opinion, a misunderstanding that, all technology is bad, including medical technology. And it's not about technology itself, because that's a neutral instrument. You can't say something is good or bad if it's inanimate. Now, it's all a matter of who wields this power. Just like firearms, they're great or they're the worst possible thing ever, depending on who wields it. Now, my personal opinion is it's not this technology has been or is inherently evil, or it is inherently troubling. The technological revolution has saved a lot of people, but it also has damaged just as many people. And where I think you and I agree is that the people wielding the power behind a lot of this have just the worst intentions for humanity.
100%, brother. You have to understand, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. These technologies, we're trying to use them for God. They're using them for Satan. And that's why knowledge is power. And that's why it's so unbelievable to be able to have these conversations so that we can talk about these things. Okay? Because again, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm here to tell you, you're not going to see this on the television, because Fox, ABC, NBC, CNN, they're not going to tell you these things because they are controlled by the pharmaceutical companies. Going back to your farming real quick, I don't know if your listeners know who Dr. Zach Bush is, but if you don't, please go look up who he is. I'm involved with a project called No Till, No Spray, Regen, Reag, where by 2035, we want thy food to be thy medicine, that medicine to be thy food again, because God gave us everything we needed in the soil. Everything was in the soil, all the alkaloids for cancer, for Parkinson's, for diabetes. They were all in the soil, and they were passed from the soil to the plants. And we either ate the plants or we ate the animals that ate the plants, and we got all those nutrients. But Big Ag and Big Farm realized this almost 100 years ago, and what have they done? That they sprayed the Roundup, the pesticides and the herbicides on the soil to take all those alkaloids out so that that food is no longer that medicine. You have to take their petroleum-based Rockefeller medicine that all is it going to do is cover up a problem and put a Band-Aid on a problem, which then causes another problem, which causes another problem. So you stay in that system, and then you go to the doctor, and if you go to the doctor, you have surgery, you have rehab, and you stay in that system, and they love that. They don't want to kill you instantly, brother, because if they killed you instantly, they wouldn't make no money. So
they create customers, not cures.
They want to kill you nice and slowly over time so that you die penniless in the old folks' home, because the last thing they want you to do is pass your wealth on to your children or your grandchildren. This is very well documented. Going back to the vaccines, another quick thing, and we'll move forward, was that 2010, White versus Bushwick, all vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. 2018. See, in 2018, Robert Kennedy Jr., he's running for president, and Del Bigtree, that they sued HHS, Health and Human Services, to release the safety study. See, Ronald Reagan in that 1986, when he exempted all the vaccine companies of any and all liability, and he mandated everybody buy their product, he said, look, we've got to hold these pharmaceutical companies accountable. So how are we going to hold them accountable? We're going to make them do safety studies, but not every year, because that would be way too many safety studies and way too much work for them to do a safety study every year. So he said, look, we're going to make them do safety studies every other year. So 2018, they sued to release the safety studies done every other year for the last 33 years. Do you know how many safety studies they had done, brother?
Nowhere near enough.
Guess how many you think they've done in 33 years, every other year? How many safety studies do you think they had done?
Oh, probably could count on both hands.
No, it's zero. Nada, zilch, not one single safety studies. But yet the television continues to tell you they're safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective. No safety studies. Zero. Nada. Not one. So that, guys, this is why it's so important for you to do your own research. You know, this is why when I went out, when the COVID vaccine went to market, and I went to the pharmacist, and I was one of the first people in the country to get a package insert. And when I got the package insert, and me and the pharmacist sat there together, and we unfolded it, and she was like, it's intentionally blank. And I'm like, yeah. How can you as a pharmacist know whether it's safe to give it to your patients that have an allergy to peanuts, or an allergy to this, or an allergy to that? Because you have no idea what's in it. Zero, nada. You have no clue. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't know this. Yeah, why didn't you test and prove all things? Why didn't you do the research? And they told you from the beginning it was for an emergency use only. Where's the emergency, brother? Do you know where the emergency was? In their pocketbooks. They needed money.
Well, they didn't need it, but they definitely wanted it. So one thing I kind of want to touch on, just before we let the YouTube audience go, so we can start uncensoring ourselves due to the big tech overlords. So it kind of seems as though David Pakman has, for lack of a term, a hard-on for you, and that's not a glowing review. I'm not a fan of David Pakman. I'm also not a fan of the Young Turks. I view these people as far leftists, and I'm not on the right by any means, but that's definitely one thing I would say you have going for you, is that if they're coming and attacking you, that's more of a reason to at least listen to you, which I will reiterate to anyone. It doesn't mean he's true, but it definitely doesn't mean that he's not true. So I assume that all my listeners are adult enough and smart enough to be able to use their brain and be able to determine for themselves, which is what this entire show is about, is being able to make up your own mind. And I implore every single person listening to this to do exactly that. So I guess the question is what is your opinion of David Pakman and his coverage of you?
I love the brother. I love all my brothers and sisters. I disagree with him, and sadly, I believe he's very misinformed. But more importantly, he won't do the research. And guys, when what we're talking about with David Pakman, when I heard about this liquid gold nearly 25 years ago, I'm like, that guy is a crazy nut. Seriously? He drinks his own urine? Really? He does that? And then I heard it from a good friend of mine, David Avocado Wolf. And I'm like, David, he's a little out there. He's a little different, but that's still crazy. That's still crazy. And then I heard it from a third medical doctor, and I'm like, okay. My Lord and Savior says, test and prove all things. Not some things, but all things. And I got the book, Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie. And I read that book, and I was like, holy cow. Wow. What if this is real? What if this is real? And I did more and more research, And I'm the type of person, I got to see it, I got to smell it, and then I got to test it on myself because this is the temple that God gave me, and it's mine. And when I go through the research and I realize that it's safe and I believe it could be effective, then I test it on myself. And I did that nearly 25 years ago, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And I never told anybody about this, brother. I never spoke openly about this in any form of the fashion until January of last year. A good friend of mine, Dr. Group, who was on President Trump's vaccine task force, calls me up and says, Christopher, we have found the antidote for those that have taken the bioweapon, the COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm like, brother, well, please tell me, because my team of 7,500 medical doctors have all said anybody that takes this bioweapon, they will be dead in 2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years. I said, please tell me what it is. And he said, look, just wait a second. He says, we've been researching this for 12 months, and we've seen complete reversal of myocarditis, blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, graphene oxide, all being removed from the blood for doing this therapy for 90 days. And I'm like, wow, what is it? He said, well, I said, dude, just freaking tell me, what is it? He says, it's urine therapy. And I'm like, holy cow. He said, what do you mean? I said, that makes such perfect sense. He said, what are you talking about? I said, brother, I've been doing this for almost 25 years myself. And I said, what better way for these Satanists, for these Luciferians to create this bioweapon that there was no cure for anywhere on the planet, for them to inject that bioweapon into God's temple, God's body, and for the temple to create the antibodies, for the liver to spin it, and you piss it out, and all you have to do is take it right back in. And let me put this in perspective for those that says, oh, that is crazy. That makes no sense whatsoever. Well, look, test and prove all things. Do you know how they create antivenom, brother? You know how they create antivenom?
I sure do.
Okay, well,
snake venom is a rather important thing to have, especially in my area, my neck of the woods. Out spending time out in the wilderness, you come across snakes quite often around here, so it's rather important to have a snake bite kit.
Well, let me tell your listeners that don't know, to help you kind of understand what's going on here. How they create antivenom, they take the snake, they milk it, they get the venom, they then inject that venom into a horse and or a sheep. Because instantaneously, that horse or sheep or any animal, any person whatsoever that's injected with that venom, instantaneously, they create the antibodies. They then pull the blood out, they spin it, and that is antivenom. Plain and simple. And that's what happens with this temple. Any poison that comes to this temple, the temple creates the antibodies, the liver spins it, and you piss it out. People don't understand when you do the research, you read the book, Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie. Urine therapy has been studied more than any other substance on the planet. The research out there is undeniable. The studies that are done and Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie will blow your mind. Completely blow your mind. Do you understand most people that are dying from taking the bioweapon, they're dying from blood clots? Yes or no? A lot of them are dying from blood clots. There
is a higher than normal injury coming from this poison, is what I would call it. Absolutely unnecessary. So it's definitely more likely than any other that we've previously seen.
Most definitely. But one of the major things that are happening to people, they get blood clots, they die, they have a heart attack, they have a stroke, they get myocarditis and whatnot. But blood clots is one of the ones when you do the research and the people that die, that's one of the higher ones. And do you know the number one FDA approved pharmaceutical drug for blood clotting? Do you know what it's derived from, brother?
If I'm correct, There's I can't remember the name of the drug. Comes from India.
It's derived from urokinates. Do you know where urokinates come from?
That I do not.
Urokinates, urine.
So let me ask you this about it, and after this we'll switch over so we can speak a bit more openly. Now I'm not gonna start drinking my own urine.
Okay.
This doesn't seem like something that's up my alley, but
Gotcha, understand?
that's I'm not opposed to having this conversation, like I stated before. But so in my mind, it seems as though if this is a effective therapy, then wouldn't this have to be processed in some way to be able to make it safe for consumption? I mean, obviously, you said you've been doing it for over 2 decades. I mean, it looks like it hasn't making you sick. So, but to me, it just seems logical that it would have to be processed in some way to be able to not ingest the waste products that your body does expel.
Again, the best processing equipment in the world is your kidneys and your liver, and it is unbelievable. The way God put together this temple is like nothing we've ever seen, and that's what they can't stand, because they are trying to kill us. And no matter how many poisons they put in the water, the air, or the food, this body acclimates to it, and that's what so frustrates them. It so frustrates them. And what you don't understand, brother, you've already drank your own urine. When you were in your mother's stomach, you were living and bathing and drinking your own urine. That's why when you came out, your skin was so glowy. That's why you smell so perfect, because you were bathing in those stem cells. There's billions and billions of stem cells in your urine. Your highest end beauty products in the world, if you look on the back of the ingredients, it says urethra. You know where urethra comes from? Urine. It's right there in plain sight. And again, a lot of you can't handle this, and I understand. Okay, it's one of those things that, like I said, I didn't want to have to speak out about this, but when I knew the death and destruction that was coming, I had to go public with this. I'd never spoken about this in my life, and I went public with this. And Jimmy Kimmel, Rolling Stones, Washington Post, New York Times, everybody went crazy on me. 15 minutes on Jimmy Kimmel after the national championship football game, Alabama versus Georgia. He talked nothing but me and urine therapy. Why would they do everything they could to discredit me unless there was something there? Why would they spend all the time and energy writing all these articles unless there was something there? Go get the book, Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie. Go read this. And look, if you guys can't handle urine therapy, I understand. It's perfectly fine. That's why I've done everything I can to bring the best products to market in the world. And that's why.
Are the products urine based?
No. None of those,
Okay,
none of those products at all are based urine in any form of the fashion. Okay. That's just something that I wanted to get out to the masses, because right now a lot of people are financially having problems, and they can't afford products and whatnot. So that's why I wanted to give something that was free for all. Okay. And if you don't want to go down that road, we have things that are unbelievable. Because I believe very simply, there's 4 simple process of taking care of this temple. Number 1, accept your Lord Savior, Jesus Christ. Number 2, glutathione is one of the best products in the world to detoxify the body. Number 3 is you got to make the cells communicate, and that's where you can take this little pain chip, put it anywhere you have pain.
I was about to ask you about those.
Anywhere you have pain, the pain will be greatly decreased, if not gone. This will blow your mind. Anybody out there, if you don't believe this is real, you go to my website, vaccine-police.com. At the very top, you hit free pain and energy chips, and I will ship these anywhere in the world. For you to try these. This will blow your mind, okay? A lot of people know who Nikola Tesla was, but most people don't know who Royal Raymond Rife was. Please take down the name, Royal Raymond Rife. Royal Raymond Rife in 1932 was given 16 terminal cancer patients by the equivalent of the American Medical Association, and in 60 days, he cured 14 of the 16. Took him another 30 days to cure the other 2, 100% cure rate, and most people have no clue who this man was. My mentor, A guy I worked with, his name was Lynn Kinney. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer 33 years ago in Birmingham, Alabama. He was sent home to die. He refused, started doing research, came across Royal Raymond Rife, and was able to buy the original estate of Rife, back engineered it, cured himself of terminal cancer. And we have a device called the Beam Ray that we don't market, we don't advertise, but there's over 10,000 of these units in the field. And that's why it's so important to try this little chip here and understand that if we can do that with that little chip, just imagine what can happen if we can put more frequencies into the temple, if we can put more energy into the body. And that's what we do here at Fellowship and Frequencies at Keys to Life in Boynton Beach. We have, do your listeners know anything about the med beds at all?
I've never even heard of it.
Okay. Well, guys, go do research on med beds. Go look it up. We believe the government has med beds that physically regrow limbs. That is not what we have here, but we do have, we believe, the most advanced technology where we're able to do a voice analysis to see exactly what frequencies your temple's missing. We're able to put it back into the temple using scalar waves, Tesla technology, Rife technology. We spin you in circles, and we believe amazing, amazing things happen. And again, don't believe me. Go get my little pain chips. Go get my little energy chips that you can put on the back of your cell phone, your laptop, any electronic device. These guys are free. And I love it when it doesn't work for somebody, because then I want to know why God made you different. So I can go back to the drawing board and make this better. Okay, make this better. What do you know about HGH, human growth hormone, brother?
Very little.
If you talk to any anti-aging doctor in the world, they will tell you if you want to stay young, if you want to slow down the aging process, you want to do what's called synthetic HGH, human growth hormone. The average person can't afford it. It costs $4,000 a month. It's very, very expensive. It's synthetic, so I won't have anything to do with it. And you have to inject it into your subcutaneous fat, okay? When you do that, your liver transfers it to what's called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor. That's what does everything. Dr. Lentini has deer farms in New Zealand where his deer, their antlers are the fastest growing substance on planet Earth. The reason why they grow so fast is because of the high concentration of IGF-1 that's in the tip of the antlers. He's been able to freeze dry it out, put it in a lipo delivery system that his scientists invented, that they have the patent that will give your temple 98% absorption. This is unheard of in the supplement industry. But more importantly, brother, he's got the clinical studies to prove that if you do the 300,000 nanograms, which is what me, Stu Peters, Mike Adams, Jonathan Otto, many of the elite athletes around the world does, it increases your IGF-1 levels by 60%. This is going to give your body the nutrients it needs to rebuild, to regrow, to rejuvenate, to build your immune system. This is why this product was banned by the NFL, the PGA, Major League Baseball, the NCAA, because if you get well, if you take care of your temple, you don't go to the doctor. If you don't go to the doctor, you don't get sick. If you don't get sick, you don't have surgery. Guys, this is all about keeping you in Rockefeller medicine. And I tell everybody, if I were to have a terrible accident out here, please take me to the nearest emergency room, because we got the best, I believe, emergency care in the world, bar none. But you get me the hell out of there as fast as you can, because the chances of me dying from staph or God knows what while I'm there is very highly possible and more than likely probable.
Hell, I'll agree with that. Get me out of that place as quickly as possible.
Very much quickly as possible. So guys, please go to my website, vaccine-police.com. For your listeners, anybody that puts in Rise to Liberty, any product you buy, we give you the second product free. Okay. Yes, you got to get on auto ship, but guys, you give this 90 days. You give this 90 days, and I believe the body, the temple that God created, will be changed forever, because you're finally going to be getting the nutrients it needs to rebuild, to regrow, to rejuvenate. Look at the glutathione. Guys, you're filled full of toxins, and one of the best detoxes in the world is glutathione. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You got to get these poisons out of the temple, because they are killing you. And we believe this temple that God created will heal itself from any and all things. When you give it real water, real food, real air, real frequencies, real supplements, it heals itself. But they want you to be part of Rockefeller medicine. A little quick secret: your temple does not need petroleum. Okay, do you understand your pharmakia, your pharmaceutical drugs, have petroleum in there? Why? Because God's herbs that God created heals all things. And they realized this a very long time ago. And they're like, okay, look, we can't patent that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those herbs and then we're going to add petroleum to it, because then it's man-made and we can patent it. And then it won't cure anything. It'll just cover up a problem that causes another problem. And then we'll have a patient for life. And we
Or
make
even if it does help with one thing, it causes so many other things that you end up needing more.
By design. And this is why people have to become their own doctors. When the American people and the people around the world finally realize what has happened with COVID, they will never trust their medical doctors ever again. And that's why I'm trying to do everything I can to educate the masses, because this is mass eugenics. And I love COVID, because for 22 plus years, I was the guy that was screaming about vaccines and nobody would listen. Everybody said I was a crazy conspiracy theorist and that, what is he talking about? But now with COVID, there's so many people like yourself and others that are calling me saying, Christopher, I really think this is a bioweapon. I'm like, you dang right it is. But guys, not just this one's a bioweapon. Every vaccine that has ever been created is a bioweapon, including polio. And I want to tell you a quick secret how evil these people are. Do you understand, before your child is 24 hours old, they inject that precious child with hepatitis B vaccine. Okay, hepatitis B, let me tell you listeners something. Hepatitis B, you can only get, number one, if your mother has it, and then she transfers it to you, but they're going to test and they're going to know whether your mom has it or not. Okay. The only other way to get it is to have sex or to share intravenous needles. Do they really think our children, after being 24 hours old and go back to the neonatal room, do they really think they're back there having a freaking orgy and they're back there shooting up each other with intravenous needles? I mean, think about
it. Some of these people, I don't know exactly what they're doing with their kids, but most normal people, and yes, I will say that most normal people, emphasize normal, are not going to be doing that with their kids, obviously.
Guys, please go do the research. Please, God, don't take that precious child.
So one thing I do got to ask, because obviously there's a lot of critics
of it.
What exactly, or how do you approach these critics?
Again, test and prove all things. Okay. I mean, I don't tell anybody my age, because age is nothing but a number. And I believe, I feel like I'm 21, and I believe with what I know with science now that I can live, and this will make everybody think I'm even more crazy, but I don't care. Okay. Because I know what I know. And I believe I can live to be 2011 years of age and look just like I do right now, unless Jesus Christ comes back first. Because this temple, when you give it what it was intended to have, it doesn't have to age. It doesn't have to. I mean, Enoch lived to be over 1,000 years of age. Okay. Our temple is unbelievable. We've just been poisoned over and over again. And look, it doesn't make logical sense to most. And that's okay. But at least try it. That's why this little chip here is so important, because this is something all y'all can get in your mail, and then you can take it on your knee pain, your shoulder pain, your back pain, put it on there and say, Christopher, you're a freaking idiot. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. But sadly, you're not going to be able to. Because when I took this to my University of Alabama, my professors, Dr. Joe Smith and Dr. Bishop, and said, look, you always taught me when you don't understand something, you bring it back to the lab and you do a randomized double-blind placebo study. And when they did the randomized double-blind placebo study on my pain and my energy chips, and they came back and said, Christopher, it's a freaking sticker. It's a sticker, Christopher. How in the world are we taking these athletes that have got knee pain, shoulder pain, back pain? We're taking thermal imaging photography. We see the red heat on their shoulder or their knee or their elbow. We put the chip on there. We take a second photo 60 seconds later, and that heat is gone. It's now green and yellow. That makes no sense, Christopher. How are we taking these athletes that can do 220 pounds 20 times? We put this little chip on their wrist, and they get 22 to 25. This makes no sense, Christopher. Well, no, it didn't. And when I tried it the first time, I'm like, holy cow, because I know my temple. I knew I could only do 225, 32 times. And I put it on, I got 37. Never done it ever in my life. I said, what in the heck is this? This makes no sense.
Now that's my question. Exactly what are they?
What this is, brother, is a hologram. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a hologram. Okay. Hologram supposedly was discovered by NASA, and holograms are storage centers for information. Okay. A lot of your cell phones, your laptop, a lot of your electronic devices have holograms in there. They can store because they can store more memory. So what I've been able to do is take this hologram, okay, and my background in exercise physiology, kinesiology, I've been able to take the frequencies that I know the temple needs, embed it into this hologram, and then I put it in your energy field, and then it resonates those frequencies throughout your body. If you've never read the book, The Body's a Lecture by Robert Becker, please go read it. When I read that book, it changed everything for me because I finally realized this temple that God created is electric. God spoke and we were. Everything is frequency. The best analogy I have, how do you get vitamin D? Everybody says from the sun. And I ask them how, and they say you absorb it. No, what happens is the sun resonates the frequency of vitamin D. And when you go out in the sun, that frequency comes into your energy field and your body produces it. Your body is electric, and you guys have been lied to and continue to be lied to. And there's so many people out there right now that are in pain, and you don't have to be. And this is why I was able to get into every NFL, PGA, Major League Baseball, the NCAA. I would sit at the hotel where I knew these players were staying. I would sit in the lobby, and I would wait for a Brett Favre or a Ray Lewis or whoever to come out. And I would take this little chip, put it on their shoulder pain, their knee pain, their back pain. They're like, what in the world did you just do? Are you a witch doctor? What just happened? I'm like, brother, this is real. And then they would take me to the rest of their brothers, and we would get them involved, and they would go on to win the Super Bowl, the national championship. People say that can't be real. Guys, go do the research. Go look me up and what I've done. Yeah, they call me a snake oil salesman. Yes, they find me hundreds of millions of dollars, try to shut me down. Why are they doing so much to stop me? Because our technologies work, and they work so very well. And they don't want you to have access to it because they want you to stay part of the system. This deer antler velvet right here, this is the one product I will never, ever stop taking because I know what it does for my temple to help my temple rebuild, regrow, rejuvenate. And the athletes around the world know the same thing. And this is something that you need individually because, guys, your food is not real food anymore. Your food has no nutritional value in any form of the fashion. And this is why this is so important, brother.
Well, I definitely say, or gotta say that I definitely agree with your analysis of the problem for sure. Without a doubt, I agree with you 100%, and I think you got a lot going for you as far as credibility. Now, I've watched your critics. The issue I have with them is I don't find them to be as reputable. I don't find them to be a good source. I mean, the Young Turks, really. Now, I'm not saying that you are 100% correct or incorrect. Like I said, I'm trying to stay open-minded and neutral in this. The one thing I can say about nutrition and health is that we are all so different, but there is a lot that's the same. However, what works for one person isn't going to always work for anyone else. And whatever works for you is what you should do, but you should also be open to trying different things. Like I said, the urine thing, that would have to be something. I mean, that might take me years, if ever. But I mean, something else, I gotta say, you dropped a name, somebody that I do respect is Dr. Group, and I'm a big fan of his. I've taken his products and have been impressed with what I've tried. Now, everything that he puts out there is not something for me, not everything, but there are some things. And I think that that's a big part of this is experimentation of what works for your body. And I think the biggest test to what you're saying is, well, first of all, you're still sitting right here. It hasn't made you sick. It hasn't killed you, So for you, I think that's wonderful. And if this is something that somebody else wants to try, um, one thing I did want to ask about your studies on the hologram stickers. Are those available for people to go read if they want?
Yeah, there's one that was done by the University of Alabama, one that was done by Troy State University. Go to vaccine-police.com. If anybody has any questions, guys, my direct cell, you can call me anytime, is 205-936-9803. And guys, I love it when it doesn't work, any of my products, because again, like you were saying earlier, God made us all different. And that's what's so amazing about this temple. All of us are different, and some things may not work, but I am the type of person, I want to know why God made you different so we can make what we do better, okay? Because this is all about helping God's people, but more importantly, this is about helping God's children. And again, like I told you earlier, our children have no future if we don't stand up to this tyranny right now. They have no future, and I can promise you why I do what I do very simply. My children will never, ever come to me and say, Dad, Granddad, why did you stand up to this tyranny? Why didn't you speak up and speak out against this tyranny? Guys, I'm doing my part. I can do a lot more, and I'm going to do a lot more. My question is to you, are you doing your part? And a lot of you guys, I understand, you don't want to be boots on the ground. You don't want to be going to jail like I have many times. You don't want to do that. And I understand that. I respect that. But please understand the power that each and every one of you individually has, where all you have to do from your keyboard at home right now is take this program and share it with one person. One will turn to two will turn to four, and before you know it, this information will be all around the world. And let those people debate it. Let them do the research, test and prove all things. I just want an open dialogue so we can talk about this. And this is where, the vaccine whole thing is, yes, they're safe and effective. Yes, they're safe. Well, show me the studies. There are no studies. But yeah, they're safe and effective. Well, show me the studies. But yet I'm the conspiracy theorist. No, I'm not. They're not there. Plain and simple, brother. They're not there.
Well, one thing I will say is as soon as you're told that you can't talk about something, that's when you should start talking about it.
100%. 100%.
So, especially with this conversation, I think, and I'll probably get called crazy for having this conversation as well. And you know what? I don't really care, because there's no conversation that is too dangerous, in my opinion.
Ever.
So it's ridiculous to me, which is why when I've seen your critics and I've kind of seen the way that they've brought you on to kind of just dismiss you, and that's fine if that's their position. But if this is not something interesting or something that you're actually going to entertain, then why entertain it at all, other than if you're just trying to grow a YouTube channel?
Well, again, that's why I came public with this, because, again, I believe the death and destruction that is coming from this bioweapon is going to be like nothing we've ever seen. And the medical doctors have no answer for it. And that's why I wanted to get this out there, because I believe it is the antidote. You may not, and that's perfectly fine. But please, go do the research, because you never know when you're going to have these blood clots, these myocarditis, these strokes, these heart attacks. And this is something that's free. It costs absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch. And why would I spend all my time and energy speaking out about this when I have to go through all these credits and whatnot, when I've got the best products in the world? When you go do the research, you'll see my products are the best products in the world. But I wanted you guys to have something that you didn't have to pay any money for, because I want to help all of mankind. Because, again, we have no future. My children have no future if we don't stand up now. and we need your help, guys. So I'm about to have to run, brother. So if anybody out there, if you want my pain, my energy chips, go to my website, vaccine-police.com. You can also go to getigf1.com, and that's where we're doing the special for any of the Rise to Liberty listeners. You buy any of my products, I will give you the second product free. Yes, you have to get on auto ship, but give this 90 days. Give this 90 days, and I believe your temple will be changed forever. And if you have any questions anytime, my direct cell is 205-936-9803. And anybody that's near West Palm, Florida, come by and see our Keys to Life med beds, see our quantum energy beds, our quantum sound beds, and let us teach you how to be your own doctor. Love you, brother, and God bless.
Hey, thank you so much, Chris. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Beautiful. Don't call me Chris. My grandmother will haunt you. Christ is in me. Is in my name. So Christopher, and brother, please, you text me your name, address, and email. I want to send some of my pain and energy chips to you. And I want you to try these. And I want you to tell your listeners that, yeah, he's a crazy nut. Or when they work, you got to tell them the truth, brother. Okay?
Hey, I'll gladly do that for you. And yeah, I'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Love you, brother. God bless.
Yep. You as well.
Thank you. Text me, man.
Will do.
Bye-bye. We good, brother?
Let's see. Nope. We're still going. Let's see. It's not ending. Sorry, everyone's still watching this. Trying to end the broadcast. Hold on just one sec. And